All right. Well, let's get into the latest New York Jets news around the world of the New York Jets. There's a lot of things you can talk about, right? Regarding the overall news in terms of where the Jets are going to go. You got the draft, you got free agency. There's so many different things that you can really bring up in terms of this Jets football team. But regarding the strengths and the weaknesses of this roster, I want to hear your guys' thoughts of this, because right now what the front office is doing and what the coaching staff is doing is they're taking a deep dive into the actual personnel that's on this team right now, looking at the pending free agents, looking at the guys they have under contract, and they are grading them, figuring out where are our strengths, where are our weaknesses. We can all agree there's way more weaknesses than strengths on this roster. So the question is, if there is strengths, where is it? What part of this team do you think there literally is a personnel strength that could be built for the future? I'll start off with you, Matt. Is there any strength that you see on this Jets team that you feel like can be built to become a very good unit for this upcoming season with more additions in the offseason?
So as is good or needs additions and then can be good? Because I would say
it is good right now. It has like a foundation of strength.
Okay. Offensive tackle. I think you're good there with Armand Membu and Olu Fascia. And you could probably extend it throughout the offensive line, right? And just include like Joe Tippmann. And obviously they're bringing back Josh Myers. The decision to make at left guard. But I would say overall offensive line is probably this team's biggest strength outside of, unless you want to talk about punter, right? But I don't know if I have it in me to do 5 minutes on Austin McNamara here.
I don't know. I may need to hear 5 minutes of that breakdown. That sounds fun. But I feel like the Jets' strength is obviously the offensive line, and that's a big reason. That's a big thing. You know, it's not something you want to gloss over. But how good can the offensive line get? Say they don't get Linderbaum, and say they bring back ABT, and Myers is the guy at center. What's the real potential with this offensive line? Another year of understanding each other. Start off with you, Matt. Again, just because you brought up the offensive line, how good could this offensive line be without making any more huge additions?
So, let's just say they decide to retain either John Simpson or Elijah Vera Tucker for left guard. I think this is still an above average unit, somewhere between the 10 to 14 range. If they were to add a big fish like Tyler Linderbaum, I think that's what could catapult them into being a top 10 unit in the NFL. But even if it's kind of just like, hey, we're going to retain our starting five from last year and just roll it into another year, I think this is, above average unit, somewhere between 10 to 15.
Now, is there any other strength that comes to mind for you, Jake, on the defensive side of the ball, or is there zero strength on this defense and there's no strength outside of the offensive line? Your thoughts of a strength on this roster, the way it's constructed heading into the offseason?
Can I say kicker and punter? I mean,
yeah, it's
Nick Falk's amazing. Austin McNamara got snubbed for the All-Pro team. He's fantastic. Falk got snubbed for the Pro Bowl, by the way. I feel really good about our special teams unit. We'll see if they bring back Kene and Wanu and what happens with Isaiah Williams, but I feel good about that unit overall. So I think that's a real strength. That's solid. Matt nailed it with the O-line. You do have a number one wide receiver. I think if they bring Brace back, you can feel pretty good about the running back room. So I don't think they're that far away there. I actually feel okay about the defensive tackle situation with Briggs and Phillips for another year. They certainly can add to that. But then really outside of that, I think it's mostly weaknesses from that point on.
So would you count the edge rusher position as a weakness with Jermaine Johnson and Will McDonald?
I would, because Jermaine did not have a good year. Now he's coming off the Achilles, but still. And, Aaron Glenn said he'd coach up players, and most notably, Will McDonald was, with it being mentioned in that coaching quote. And he had a disappointing year. I mean, he had 8 sacks, but 4 of them happened in one game. 2 of them happened in week 1. He was basically absent for the rest of the season outside of those moments.
Yeah, the defensive line, and I'm happy you brought up Jawan Briggs and Harrison Phillips. And what's a consistent thread in what you mentioned is those two guys were acquired by this regime, which I think is important. That was Darren Muji bringing them those guys. Jermaine Johnson, Will McDonald, that's previous regime things. So that's why I'm really intrigued by this offseason, because I'm really excited to see what players this coaching staff and what this front office is going to bring in that fits their model. We saw last year they brought in Stevens, they brought in Fields. They had their first chance, but now they're going to get another chance. And I think that Jawan Briggs, if there was the biggest strength of the defense, it is finding him for the value that they got. I really am all in on Jawan Briggs. And then Harrison Phillips, He's that perfect culture guy, leader. He is an extension of Aaron Glenn in terms of really buying into him. He's just saying the right things. You need that positive energy in the locker room that has been around the league, that has that veteran presence in Harrison Phillips. So I think they should definitely draft a defensive tackle that can learn behind those two, whether it's on day 2 or day 3. But I do think the defensive tackle position is a strength. So you got that as a strength. Nowhere else in the defense is a strength, you can say. Linebackers is not a strength. Corners, no more. Safeties, absolutely not. And then on the offensive side of the ball, we talked about offensive line. You got a number 1 receiver. What's your guys' thoughts of the receiver room outside of Garrett? Like, how do you look at A.D. Mitchell and John Mechie? Are they going to be part of this offense? They're going to draft a receiver, and I also think they're going to sign a receiver. Where does A.D. Mitchell and John Mechie fit into this offense in this upcoming year, Matt?
Yeah, I think and I know these wide receiver 1 versus 2, 3, the rankings kind of changes throughout the week, but somewhere around the team's 3rd and 4th receiver would be my guess. I think they add someone either through free agency, trade, or the draft that really is more of your prototypical number 2 receiver. I think for both those guys, they showed signs of being contributors. I just don't think you can go into next year and be okay with A.D. Mitchell as that prototypical number 2 and then John Mechie starting in the slot. I just think you need a little bit more there in that wide receiver room.
Yeah, I agree. And I think that, we saw glimpses of hope with Mechie, then he had a drop problem. We saw a glimpse of hope with Mitchell, and then he kind of fizzled out. So I think those two guys are part of this offense that the Jets are going to try to implement, but of course they're going to add some more pieces around it. All right, the more fun part, weaknesses. Ooh, everything. All right, so there's a very interesting way we can go about the weaknesses side of the roster. Okay, like when I say, what's the biggest weakness of this football team on this roster personnel-wise, Jake, what's the first thing that comes to your mind?
Probably the linebacking core was the first thing. I just have images of this entire linebacker unit being sucked in on play action seemingly every single game. I mean, where do we start, right? I mean, you could say really all levels of the defense. I mean, obviously, the most obvious is quarterback. I feel like that goes without saying. We started Brady Cook for multiple games this season, and Fields was an abomination, and Tyrod is always hurt and there's a backup. So outside of the obvious in quarterback, I feel like any level of the defense you want to pick, safety room, you want to go corner, it really doesn't matter. I think it's a glaring weakness.
Yeah, and it's quarterback is the most obvious answer. That's been a weakness forever. As long as I've been alive, it feels like. So until they figure that position out, nothing really matters, in my opinion, because you can bring in all these guys around the quarterback and nothing will really matter if you don't have the guy. Because if you look around the playoff teams, like Drake May, for example, the Patriots, do you look at that Patriots roster and you're like, wow, they're talented? They're really not. They're playing extremely well because Drake May is putting those guys in situations to succeed, and Mike Vrabel is as well. That's what the Jets need, is a franchise quarterback that can level up the team around him and a coach that can get the most out of these players and make those no-names into names. And the Jets do not have that right now on any stretch of the imagination. So, Matt, weaknesses on the roster. There's a lot of guys, a lot of different positions, but where do you want to go with this?
Yeah, I think the two that jumped out in my head immediately were quarterback and safety. I think those are two rooms that just need to be completely redone. I know you have Malachi Moore there in safety, and I think he can compete for a starting job, but I don't think he played well enough to just go into 2026 as the definite starter. That's one of those rooms where I think you're likely signing someone in free agency and also adding someone in the NFL draft. And then, as we know with quarterback, Justin Fields going to be a post-June 1 cut. Tyrod Taylor is 37 and a free agent. You brought in Bailey Zappi, I guess, to compete with Brady Cook. So QB3 will be one of those two guys, but I think you need to find both a veteran and probably someone in the NFL draft to round out that room.
Now, this position, I'm curious to get your thoughts. Strength or weakness, and it cannot be down the middle because I feel like that's the answer. Tight end. Is that a strength of this football team or a weakness?
I guess I'll lean more strength because I do like Mason Taylor. I think he'll be better in year 2 than he was as a rookie. They could upgrade it, though. I bring it back Ruckert is fine as if he's the tight end 3. if you got a chance to sign Kyle Pitts, for example, in free agency, or draft someone, or, I think what's his name in Cleveland is a free agent as well. Like, I'd be open to doing something along those lines. I think they can improve that room with another addition. Njoku is who I was thinking of. Like, he's available. Isaiah Likely is available. I'd like to see them add one more player to that room, but I don't think it's a weakness. It's probably not a strength either, but I lean more strength.
Yeah, I'm with Jake on that one too. Like, I think calling it a strength is probably a little premature, but it's definitely skews more towards that side than it does weakness side. And I agree, they need another body there, and that could come in either free agency or somewhere in the NFL draft. I'm a big Mason Taylor guy. I think he'll look better with better quarterback play, but can still use another body in that room.
Now, when it goes through the rookie class from last year, who do you think in the rookie class is on that strength side and weakness side? Because I feel like it's kind of down the middle in terms of the draft. Armamembu a hit. Mason Taylor, I would say, like we just talked about the tight end room, solid rookie season. Unfortunately went down with an injury. A.Z. Thomas, solid rookie season, but he was in and out of the lineup, very inconsistent. We don't really know. Such a hit or miss. Malachi Moore is that piece of this draft class last year that I think has a chance to be a big piece of this defense. Is Malachi Moore the starting safety for this football team next year? Matt, what are your thoughts on Malachi Moore? Is he starting, or are the Jets going to replace both positions?
I think he'll play a decent amount, but I don't think he'll technically be a starter. I think he'll be like the third safety that rotates in certain packages and maybe also lines up in the slot to spell Jarvis Brownlee a little bit. But I think they'll sign someone. And really, it depends on where they draft the other guy, right? Like, if it's somewhere in the first 2 rounds, that guy's probably starting. If they find more of that free, prototypical free safety and free agency, and they're going to have Malachi Moore and, let's say, another 3rd or 4th round pick compete for the starting strong safety spot, that I think I'd be okay with.
And then Arian Smith, is he going to get cut? Like, is he a bust already, or does he have any special teams value? What are your thoughts of Arian Smith, Jake? Because talk about an underwhelming rookie season.
I mean, that was the guy that Aaron Glenn couldn't wait to praise and go at the media over the summer. Oh, the guy that can't catch? Well, yeah, he couldn't catch. He caught 7 in the regular season. So, yeah, I mean, look, it's incredibly disappointing with Arian Smith. I don't think you can rely on him. I don't think his roster spot is safe. I think he's a guy that if he's on the team going into training camp, he's competing to make the team. I don't think anything will be handed to him.
And we have a clip up.
It seemed like Arian Smith was making some plays today and getting open. Like, how happy are you with his progress?
The guy that can't catch? What you guys say?
Yeah, he couldn't catch, Aaron. Caught 7 passes. Should have been a 7th round pick at best.
Arian Smith, he had his name to fame as a special teams guy because he never had any impact as an offensive weapon at wide receiver. And now here we are trying to question ourselves. Will the Jets get a wide receiver earlier in this draft? Probably. Tyler Barron, Francisco. Now, Tyler
Barron makes Arian Smith look like Jerry Rice, by the way. Think about that.
Yeah, I was gonna say Barron, I think, is worse.
Barron's definitely worse. He can't even play. At least Arian Smith played a little bit.
And then the linebacker. That's a big position of need, a huge weakness. The Jets drafted Maui Guoa. I always say that name wrong. Does he have a chance to be the 3rd linebacker on this team? Because he got a lot of playing time, the rookie from Miami.
I think he's okay against the run. I don't think he can cover anybody, which is kind of fitting for the Jets linebacker room. That's an issue with everyone who was here last year. So I don't think he's a starter. He's, in my opinion, more of a special teamer depth guy.
So that's your draft class. Let's see what they look like as sophomores. But the good thing is we just said, like, yeah, Armamembu hit and just glossed over him. It's a big deal. Like, that's a hit. That's not something we can just be, yeah, yay, he's a hit. Like, the fact that the Jets got an all-pro potential, and I'll say that, I really do think Armamembu has all-pro in his future. He's a freaking mauler, bro. He is something special. And the fact that the Jets got a rocket right tackle, Olu Fashanu, we talked about that as the main strength of this football team, the offensive line. That is so refreshing, man, because the Jets have been trying to build through the trenches on the offensive line for years, and I feel like they finally have a foundation that is young, that's only going to get better as long as they continue to stay healthy and they develop with the right coaches. All right, so let me know your thoughts in the comments. Strengths and weaknesses of the New York Jets roster, and don't forget to hit that thumbs up button as well. Appreciate that.